Thank you very much. Hi guys. I will be talking today about accessibility. In English, when you hear accessibility, it's more obvious than in Polish, because in Polish, when I'm talking with friends, what I'm doing, and they're thinking sometimes that it's about availability. So with my presentation today, I want to make sure that every one of you understand the problem and trying to think about it in your project or future projects. And hopefully some tools I will show you will be helpful. So my agenda is like that. At the beginning, I will explain you what digital accessibility is. There is a number of definitions, but I will try to just take the essence and make sure that everything is correct. Later on, I will explain you how behave customers with disability, which is very important for you as developers, as product teams which are creating a software. Later on, I will just go through number of techniques, number of tools which you can use. So this part will be quick one. There will be number of things you can just take a shot or just review later on YouTube. So there will be just number of things I want to share with you, and maybe some of the tools will be good for you in your projects. So there will be tools for manual testing, for automated testing, and what's important as well, there will be tools for monitoring your production product to be sure that the accessibility is not decreasing on your production environment. And at the end, I will just point why you should do this until you regret it, because that's the presentation about. So let's go. I've got some experience in software development already. I was always specializing in automation, and that's all. Let's talk about presentation. Digital accessibility. There is a number of definitions about that. I don't want to go through and choose the best one, but I will just show you the one which we in Access just created. So there is a source where you can just find this definition, and definition is very short. It's all about the capability of the software product to be understood, learned, used, and attractive to the user with disability. So if you will just scratch in this definition with disability, what you will think about this definition? This definition is all about usability. And that's why we think that digital accessibility is subset of usability. If you think in your project about usability, then digital accessibility is part of that. You have to think about people with disabilities if you think about usability of your product. How to test it, how to verify it, and that should be verified, we believe, by two ways. One, by disabled people, because they feel different. Sometimes they see the world slightly different than we are. And on the second hand, there is other way to test it by technical tester who is just verifying across standards to make sure that we are compliant with standards like UCAC. So there are two ways of testing it. Let's go to describe the customer with disability. For sure, this is customer as every other customer, so he has some need, but he has also some special needs. So if you will imagine your customer, I don't know, you've got some shop where you are selling shoes. So your customer is looking for shoes. So people with disability, they are coming to your shop and want to buy shoes. But beside that, beside they have need of shoes, they have some other needs. So they have to find out the information on your side when they cannot see it, in example of blind person. And that's funny coincidence because today we've got World Sight Day, I believe. So in such situation, I'm presenting the accessibility stuff. That's coincidence, surely. So the people just need to buy shoes. And if he will be able to find and buy the shoes on your website, on your app, then he will come back again if he want to buy shoes next time. Why? Because he don't want to spend the time to find another software, another app, another shop where which will be accessible if he knows that your one is already accessible. So in such case, customers with disability are faithful. So that's first business case for your business to do the accessible software. Another one is because he can bring more faithful customers. People with disabilities are living in environments where they know more people like them. So if they know that some software is accessible for them, they are spreading the knowledge across others, so others coming and generating the revenue for you and stay with you if your software is accessible. Remember that and sell it to your business because that's the case why we should do the accessible software in first instance. So how to test the accessibility in our product? There is a number of things what we can do. First of all, we should know standards like UTSAC. The UTSAC is a standard created by W3C, and they are continuously improving it, they're maintaining it. Currently, we've got version 2.1, which is very common. They are working on 2.2, and in the meantime, they're working on version 3.0, but like the whole world believe that the standard currently is 2.1. So if you will hear about that, the UTSAC in version 2.1 is currently the most common one. So if you will get to know the criterions there, so you will know what you need to check in your website, because this standard is created for website, but it could be applicable for mobile as well. So if you know that you are going to build the software which should be accessible, you should go there and read it, and so you will know what parts you should care about and which areas are important regarding this standard. Another thing, how we should test it, we should use tools which are created for supporting accessible testing. So they are doing sometimes just the work which will just take number of hours for the person, could be automated by some tools. So there is a bunch of tools. I will go through them later on. So let's use them. Another thing, how we could test it, we should, as I said before, we should take such a disabled person, give them the app, the product, and just ask how it was, how you find our software. Was it useful or not? So you will know final, answer from final client if this is if your software is okay or not. Another way of testing is when you don't have a clue about how to test accessibility. There are some scans which are just doing the accessibility scan on your system, and you don't have to know anything about testing accessibility, about standards, about everything. Those scans just giving you some details. Of course, they are not finding all issues. After after a number of projects, we know that it's finding around, I don't know, 30% of the issues, and they're just capable to find such number of issues. And it's not good, but at least they are finding the most critical issues, and so you can make your software at least some better regarding this aspect. So there is not four points how you can test accessibility, but I will just go through those two because of time limitation and so on. So first thing, when you test like your software, like a technical tester using the tools, then you should have some number of tools. I will just show you a number of tools, say a couple words about them, and you can just try it later on at home. I will have some demos, so I will show two of them. Andy is a software, it's not a software, it's kind of script, which you can just inject on your website and just check your website across pages you choose to check compliance with UTAC. So it's just finding some issues, it's just highlighting it, so you can go by components and you will see what's the issue there. Area DevTools. Area DevTools is very interesting tool which is created by our friend Mateusz. This is a plugin for Chrome, which switching the view of your website to the view which see by hearing the blind person. So what does it mean? A blind person, when is visiting your website, he is not seeing the site like it is. He's just hearing the site, so that's why he's seeing it because of hearing. They've got screen readers, which are just reading what's on your screen, so they are imagining what there is. If the web page is not prepared linear, so they cannot go one by one to just find anything there, then it's problematic for them. There is a number of rules which should be implemented to make sure that it's working like that, it's working properly for them. So this tool, if you will just enable it on your website, you will just see the whole tree, what will be presented by the sound to the blind person which is using your software. So it's a very nice tool to spot some issues if we are not able adding some alternative text for images which should be described, or if you don't have any description for URLs you've got on your site, and so on. Another one, Image Alt, this is just plugin which is showing on your website alt text for images. So when you see images, you can just easily find the alt text of them and spot if there is missing alt text or auto-generated or whatever. Another one, a new HTML checker. This one is analyzing statically your website, so you can just upload the website to the tool, and it will just check it across a number of rules in tag, so they will just point the potential issues as, I don't know, div in a button tag. So that what could be an issue. Color contrast analyzer. Because of disabled people, they cannot see sometimes some colors, or they need some contrast. The tag in level AA, this is just another complication in this standardization. There are 3 levels, A, AA, and AAA. So A is like very basic checks if your site is accessible. AA is common standard for all websites, so to be accessible. And AAA is like if you are creating a product for disabled, then like you should like strict for disabled people, you should follow this AAA. But normal for like all products, we are totally fine with supporting it on AA level. So on AA level, you should have a contrast ratio between components or any elements on your website 4.5 to 1. So this is quite a big contrast, and I will show you some issues with that later on. How to check your website? You can just disable CSS. Then you can see how the website looks like for people who don't see CSS, right? So they see only content which is on website. So it's sometimes can open eyes what we've got on the website if we disable CSS. The most common technique is to scale website to 200% or 400% because number of people have it like normally on all websites. So they are just using internet like that. They have scaled their browser, and to check if your project is for them, you should just check how it will behave if you scale it up to 200 or 400. There were a number of tools, and then we've got, they were just supporting the technical testing, and another one type of tools are just scans, which are just scanning your website and checking accessibility issue. I'm calling it Ali scan. It's A11Y because before A and Y in the word accessible is 11 letters. So this is why you can spot sometimes Ali kind of shortcut when we're thinking about accessibility. So there is number of tools which can just scan your website. There is some list later on, but when you are finding for some scan, you are looking for some features. And we made some comparison about that. So I want to tell you a few words, what's important when you're looking for some tools. Maybe because of that, you will be looking someday for some tools. So what's important is as tools, what kind of features they could have. One is to perform some action on the page. So if there is any need in your product, then you have to go through some path to test some views somewhere in the system, like you've got a login screen. So you don't want to test your website like on login screen and that's all. You want to log in and then test some screens. So you need to have some steps to proceed. So some of the tools have such features, some of them not. Then you just passing some URLs and scanning it. Other thing is that the number of tools, as there is number of tools, there is number of type of reports they are producing. Of course, there are some standards. Sometimes you've got some CI/CD processes where reporting is standardized somehow. So you can choose the tool which has reporting similar or same you already have, which will be easy to integrate with your process. some of the tools are open source, not all of them. There is a number of commercial tools as well. But if you are looking for a tool which is like not perfect match and you want to just adjust it somehow, then it's very important to check if this is currently maintained and if you can just support the process. Some of the tools has command line interface. That's very useful for continuous integration process. So if you can just call the tool from command line, so from the pipeline or whatever, that's nice feature. Sometimes you are calling the scans from the code, so they could have a JavaScript interface to just call it from your tests. I will talk about that later on, what kind of tests you can use. Another thing is that if they have browser plugin, because sometimes you are just building the project, you are just want to, on the current screen, just test how it looks. So you can just go in the browser and test the accessibility on that to just see some issues. And one more is if they are capable to test on mobile views. So some of them has just by design possibility to test on different viewports. Sometimes they don't. So that's important when you are looking for tools. So there's a number of tools on the market. I've chosen a few of them, which I believe are worth to share, because they have got like the greatest number of features to compare what they cost or what the time consuming to configure. So if you are looking for more detailed information about those tools, I'm pointing you to our blog to read about that. So today I want to show you two tools. One will be AxDevTools, and second one will be AreaDevTools. So yeah, Mariusz has a problem with video, and I will be live coding, so hopefully it will be better. And let me check what I can see here. Okay. Sec, please. Okay, cool. So I will be testing the TestDive conference website. I know that there is a problem with internet, so I opened the website before. So it's not just, we will not test the network, but just the website. So the site looks like that. You know already this website. Do you think it's accessible? Okay, you don't know. Of course, you don't know because how to check it. So there is a number of things how to check it. First way is to check how people see it. Maybe I'll just make it bigger slightly. So how blind people see it. This one is this is tool AreaDev tools. This is presenting the website, how blind people hear the site. So they hear links as they are here, and then they hear that there is some iframe. As I remember, in the iframe there is some video. They don't know about it. They just hear that there is iframe. Then they hear that there is 3 streams. Again, they hear that there are 3 streams. And then they see the agenda for all those 3 streams, and they don't know where is finishing stream A and where is starting stream B, and so on. So yeah, this agenda is difficult to them to understand. But hey, they at least they will find all information about those informations here. So this is just purely to show you how it looks regarding that. Because we are not technical tester in accessibility here, so we don't especially see any issues like particular issues like beside this one with iframes and no movies here. But if we will go and open the website with AxDev tools as a plugin in a browser, we see like we have particular scan, and we have the number of issues the scan was able to find on the website. I think it's quite visible, so I will not be zooming. So what kind of issues they have? There is like almost 300 issues, but number of issues is not important. More important are the level of the issues. So we've got like 10 critical issues and 57 serious issues, and that's important. We should focus on those issues to fix those, in first instance to improve the accessibility. So we see already that there are a number of input fields. They don't have any label, so there will be some fields which are not labeled for blind person, so they will not be able to understand why there are any fields, because there will be no explanation about that. What kind of fields there are? If you will click this this button, make sure your page is in the right state. Okay. I don't know if I want to refresh the page now, but let's try. And I will do the scan again. Something was probably refreshing on the side. Yeah, the number of issues is lower now. Maybe there is like some, probably some stream just went down, right? So it's not visible here. So yeah. But still, it's not possible to localize this element. So let's find the element which has problem with insufficient color. So we see that there is already 45 some elements. So when you will click this toggle highlight button, you can see on your website that there is a this element has not sufficient contrast, so yeah, it's white on blue, but this blue is not dark enough for some people to be accessible. So it's finding issues like that, and you can easily just go through them. You can just check another one which has a similar issue. Yeah. Is even for me impossible to check. But yeah, this is one type of issue, but to check if there is another interesting one. Yeah, frames must have an accessible name. We saw in AreaDev tools that there were like frames and there were nothing about that, so this is the same issue. Links must have this discernible text. So if you will just check what's there, yeah, here is a link, right? It's a link, and this link has nothing here. Accessible text is empty, and even for us, we don't know that this is a link until we put the mouse on it. Okay, so this is kind of issues it could find. Okay, so that's all about that tool. Oh, not this one, this one. So let's go back here, which you will see. Perfect. So we saw the demo of the tool, so we were just testing a ready product. But what I want to show you now is like we want to do the testing earlier, as soon as possible, so shift left, and start testing accessibility as soon as we can, so right from the start. There are linters which are able to verify your software if there are accessible issues. That's cool. Every developer should have it installed. They already have some linters. This is just another library to put there, and they will see there are some issues, accessible issues, and developer can spot during the coding there is some issue, and there will be information how to fix it. In unit tests, developer can write unit tests, or QAs can develop unit tests when they will be testing components to check if in component installation if there is any accessibility issue. You could test accessibility in end-to-end tests, so there is a number of libraries you can use to this kind of testing. And accessibility scans, which are just running when you have everything delivered or ready. You can just run such accessibility scan to make sure that in the final stage it's still accessible. Or you can run it on a regular basis on production to make sure that the accessibility is still on a level which you accept, because there is a number of situations where on production, the people who are taking care about content on production sites, products, they are not thinking about accessibility as the priority. So sometimes they are just decreasing the accessibility by creating not accessible content on the website. So that's why such kind of scans should find out kind of issues. And yeah, all of them should be part of your CI/CD process. If you are using it, you can just put it into the process, add to the pipeline, and run on a regular basis. So first of all, those linters. I just put some example like slint plugin JSX Ali. If you will add it, and if you will add the plugin to Visual Studio, you will see something like that. So if you are adding tag EMG, you will see the information that you should have some description. You should have some alternative text. Of course, it's not checking if the alternative text is proper, but at least giving you information that you are missing something. So kind of issues could be just displayed straight away to developer when he's developing. So this is the power of linters, and let's use it. Another thing is about unit tests. If they are developing unit tests and creating components, they are always doing some unit tests. Hopefully, they are always doing some unit tests. So this is just another one to just verify the accessibility. As you can see, there is an example with Axcore. Axcore, this is very popular one. Open source library created by a big company focus on accessibility stuff. But this one is open sourced and used in number of other tools, so you can easily use it. In this case, they are used in as verification for unit tests, and the unit test is very simple because you are just running on Axe. You can see my mouse? No. Oh. On the Axe object, you are just running a method Ali check. You can post there the selector to the element to verify choosing element, or you can just run the check on the whole component, and then you are expecting no violations. So that's simply as it is. As a result, you are just receiving in in terminal, you see if there are any issues with that. Another thing is end-to-end tests, and there is, again, number of implementations for accessibility tests during the end-to-end tests. There is for Selenium, for WebDriver JS, for WebDriver IO, for anything, for even for Cypress. There is some library from, not from Axe, but using an Axe. So that's why they're adding Axe before, but it's not like there is only one tool to test it. It's not like that, but it's the most popular, it's powerful, and it's maintained well. So that's why a number of people using any tool which is using Axe as a verifier beneath. And again, the verification is very similar to unit tests. You can see that there is a X builder, and you are just analyzing, expecting no violations. So those are those tests which you should add to your software development lifecycle. And there is a number of tools, more like platforms, which are verifying your product when it's whole ready, when everything's in deployed, and we are just checking, doing the final check of accessibility. Sometimes in some companies, this final check is first check of accessibility, but should be last gate to make sure that your product is accessible. So there is a number of tools which you can see. And again, we did evaluation of those and number of others, and those are just chosen as good choice. Depends on the needs, but there are tools which are providing some values. So that's why we are suggesting those tools. Some of them are enterprise products for big products. Some of them are just open sources, and this is and providing different set of features. So that's why there is a number of tools to choose which one is best for you. And I will go to one of them today to show you how it looks regarding the accessibility of the TestDive website. So let's go. Let's go here. So this is Arc platform, and there is a number of features here. We don't have too much time to just go too deep into that, but as you see in overview, there is a number of issues which are found by this scan. You can, in such kind of platform, you can schedule regular scans. So that's why giving you some visibility if you keep the accessibility on proper level or not. So I've got only one scan here done yesterday. So you will not see the comparison to previous one, but just want to show you what we can see here. So there is information about number of errors, and what you can see here, there is two engines used to which can be used to scan. One is ARC, so the one created by the TPGI, the company which is behind the ARC platform. But they are giving you the possibility to switch to Axe as well. Axe is the engine I mentioned before. So the Axe is originally it's developed by other enterprise clients, so they are not giving it as default, but they are giving you as a possibility to check, to compare what kind of issues could be found by one and the second. We can choose the accessibility standard, if that will be UTSAC 2.1 or 2.0. Then you see that like this graph, number of, not number of issues, but density of the issues. So you can see if it's going up or down in your product. And then there is some split with some chosen sites tested crawled by this tool and found and just tested what kind of issues there. And then we see that like almost 90% of the issues are caused by three types of issues. So sometimes if you are using some framework and you will fix like one issue in the framework, you can like fix great number of issues in total, as you know. So this is sometimes applicable in accessible tests as well. So then we have just a list of issues with information, details about what kind of issues we have and number of issues. Okay, there is more features in the platform. There is a possibility to learn with SAC standards, to learn how to test accessible, how to write proper and accessible software, but that's not the part of the presentation. So go back here and tell why to test, why we should test the accessibility, because I told you how to do this, and you feel that if you are socially responsible, then you should do this to be inclusive for all people with your software. But you should do this because of the law. Currently in Poland, there is already a need that two types of organizations should have accessible software. One is a unit of the public finance sector, and the second one is about non-governmental organizations and legal entities, which are just getting the money from public. So those institutions need to be accessible with their products currently. So if you think about any foundations and their websites, they need to be accessible if they are taking money from government. So, and that's by the law. If not, they will have a fine. So that's current situation. And situation which is coming is more interesting, because in 3 years, EU Parliament decide that there is a number of products and areas which needs to have accessible, needs to be accessible, and this is from EU, but every government in EU has to follow this, and currently in Poland we are creating the law which needs to support that. So every e-commerce in 3 years has to be accessible. If you are creating e-commerce, start to think about it. If you are creating banking software, you have to be accessible. You have to be accessible in 3 years. If you are creating telecommunications, Nokia, you have to be accessible. If you're doing communication apps regarding Airbus, rail and water passenger transport, you have to be accessible. There is number of portals where you are trying to buy a ticket which are not accessible. I will not pick any of them now, but they have to be accessible in 3 years. And another one, which is like strange to compare that, but if you are providing a product which is selling on or providing ebooks, it has to be accessible as well. So those 5 are the most critical. If you are working in any of them, and just start thinking about providing accessibility to be not fined. So, couple takeaways. One, digital accessibility is an important aspect of usability. If you think about usability, there has to be digital accessibility. You may soon receive a penalty, so be careful. Test accessibility from the first line of code using available tools. You saw that there is a number of tools you can use from the beginning. Then, of course, finding and fixing issues are the cheapest. And include people with disabilities to test your software, because they are used to provide slightly different comments which can help you to understand their feeling. So it's important to include them as well. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Tomasz, for thoroughly exploring such an obvious area. And I get a feeling that one of the key takeaways was not only to present exact tools and techniques, but also to extend people awareness, right, about such a thing that shall be addressed soon, as you presented regulatory updates within 3 years, right? So thanks for that. There are 2 questions, so let me start with the first one. Do you have any recommendations for desktop app technical testing?
Sorry, to do what?
Desktop app.
Yeah, there is a couple of those tools supporting desktop desktop application testing as well. So there are a number of tools for web applications, because like the standard was created for web, but this standard is applicable for mobile and desktop as well. But you have to just find out the clue of the informations, because all about those standards are to just create standard between the apps and the screen readers or any other tool set which disabled people are using. So if there are standards and you are following them, then you are providing the support for those tools. So yeah, there are some tools which are testing accessibility for mobile, for desktop, and for web, of course.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is, do you think that for checking accessibility, we should be testing documentation for end users, if exists, or testing if application is user-friendly for end users?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Well,
if we should test the documentation?
Yeah, either documentation and or testing if application is user-friendly for end users. So I think the question is for left shifting, right? So that's why documentation appears here.
Yeah, so today I think went out the podcast for tech writers, where we are describing how you find testing the accessibility in documentation and how you should test it. But nowadays, most of the documentation created by tech writers are similar to web apps, right? So this is to test it. You can always use the same tool set. Of course, there are documentations provided in docs or PDFs. And of course, there is still a bunch of tools which are testing the accessibility for that. So yeah, that should be accessible as well. There is a funny situation that my friend who is blind had an issue with washer. And the problem was that the documentation which was provided in an app was not accessible at all. So he was not able to find out any solutions or to find out the FAQ version with answers to probably simple solutions. He was not able to check it even by himself. So yeah, documentation should be tested as well.
Thanks. All right, then to the audience, any question from anyone? Yes, we do have, so let me run to you.
Hi, I have a question. Do you have these people with disabilities in your team, or do you find somewhere, or do you pay them, or do they do this for free to test for the first time application?
Okay, so we as Accents started this year, so building the company across the accessibility, and we started with building it with people with disability in team. So when we are testing a software or doing an audit, we are always going with this approach with one person which is disabled and one technical tester who are just starting testing the application. So we are providing such kind of services together. But yeah, depends on the budget in the team. You can do at least this part with technical aspect as well. So yeah, but we in our team we are providing services like both.
Okay, there is next one.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the talk that like sort of is between UX and testing QA in general. I have a question. What's your opinion on the current state of accessibility of the software developed in Poland?
It's very poor. Basically, to find the application or any website or software which is accessible is very difficult. That's why I said that the people with disabilities are faithful. So if they will find the page which is accessible, they stay with it. So, and this is like huge problem. In Poland, there is like huge problem about that. On the West, there is they working on that from years already. Like good example could be like BBC website. It's quite accessible. The sites which are in US, they have to care about that because they have such kind of law from years already. And there is a law now currently that if you are disabled and you find some page which is not accessible for you, you can just go to court and take some money from them. So that's why they're fighting for accessibility from the scratch. We are not on this level in Poland yet, and we have number of issues with our applications, but hey, we are here to fix it. Let's remember about fixing it in your project, and we will fix it in a few years.
Excellent. Any further questions? All right, this means we are good. So thanks again, Tomasz.
Thank you very much.